So, good afternoon, and I want to welcome you to this afternoon's presentation by the American Association of University Women. We have Peggy Shippen is here and Joyce Zook from the association, and they'll be giving you a background of the organization, and you'll hear in their presentation the enthusiasm that they have for their work. And they're volunteers, and they are definitely dedicated. You know, on AAUW's website, it refers to the women as tenacious and trailblazing, and these two are that. They are champions of women's issues and rights since 1881. 144 years. The association has been in operation nationwide, and the same in Oregon. It was founded the same time as it was as a national chapter, and so it's been around for a long time. They advocate for a wide range of things, but predominantly it's preparing young women to be actively engaged in their best and own interests as well as public interest in community. And so they help with fellowships and grants to help support students in their educational endeavors. They advocate for women's health, for education that's specific to the needs for women, for Title IX conformance and participation in sports and equal rights for women. They even have a program where they teach young college graduate women to negotiate hard for salary. And and so they cover a whole lot of ground, and so I'm just going to turn it over to these two women that have been. They invited me to a garden party. That's another nice thing. They have really good meetings. They had excellent hors d'oeuvres, and it was in a garden in the fall. It was a world-class landscape architecture. So anyway, thank you very much for coming and joining us. And Joyce, I'm going to turn the podium over to you.
Well, Mark, I think you gave our presentation in a nutshell. But we thank you so much, Mark Kendall, for inviting Peggy and me to come today and share a little bit of the story of AAUW, American Association of University Women, which I will abbreviate to AAUW from now on. He already announced about the flyers and information that's on the back table that you're free to take, including posters for the Human Rights Day. Just for a moment, I'm going to say my husband and I, Tom, appreciate so much the years that we spent with you, the last 14 years. It was probably the best years of our retired life. And we just thank you so much for all the friendship, for all the continued learning. And we admire so many of you that volunteer to step up to leadership and stay with it and make it a wonderful jewel for Salem as well as Willamette University. Thank you. We do have one special visitor from AAUW Salem Branch today, and that's Dolores Malarzik. Would you stand? So to summarize the first hour here today, we will highlight the connections that AAUW has had with Willamette University. It was founded here, and it's been involved in so many projects since. The connections also with Chemeketa Community College, as both higher education institutions are partner members of AAUW. We will show how our mission is at work to empower women and girls. We will outline major advocacy issues to the mission. And lastly, we will show how community connections have added vibrancy to our Salem branch. So our mission: advance equity for women and girls through research, education, and advocacy. The vision is equity for all. The values are nonpartisanship, fact-based information, and commitment to integrity, inclusion, and intersectionality. How did AAUW begin? The national organization of AAUW was founded in 1881, as Mark already told you, in Boston, Massachusetts. At that time, a group of college graduates sought to create practical and professional opportunities for educated women, which included establishing fellowships for graduate studies and working to dismantle the belief that higher education was harmful to women's health. In 1920, AAUW raised funds for the purchase of 1 gram of radium for Marie Curie's research, which led her to become the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize for physics and chemistry. In 1920, it's reported that 1 gram of radium would have cost about $150,000. Today, it'd be over $2 million. So I don't know how the women raised that money in those days. I have not looked at the history to see how that happened. Today, AAUW continues to support women all over the world seeking higher education. Their grants and fellowship programs has over $5 million distributed each year, and it is the largest endowment fund for this purpose in the United States. How was Salem Branch formed? In October 21st, 1922, right here at Willamette University in Lausanne Residence Hall, Frances Richards, who was the Dean of Women at that time, formed the Salem Branch of AAUW. We celebrated the centennial of Salem Branch in October just 3 years ago. Here's a photo of Marion Churchill, Ray Everett, and Meredith Sheehy, 3 of the 9 life members of Salem Branch who were interviewed several years ago with the help of Capital Community Media for an oral history project. Their stories highlight achievements of the branch during this history. We invite you to watch the YouTubes of their interviews that is available on the AAUW website under the History tab, and you just click on Playlist, and you can listen to their stories. Marion Churchill tells of the promotion of a library for the prison system and her experience asking the legislature for funding. Apparently, they were not too favorable to have books in the prison at that time. Ray Everett was a strong advocate for Oregon's vote by mail, which we'll be talking about later. 2 other honored members not pictured here are Haroldine Schwartz, a leader and archivist for many years, and Carol Niger, who brought Salem Branch membership to over 400 people in the 50s. Currently, we are one of 21 branches in Oregon, and we have approximately 80 members. Now, for more connections to Willamette. Fundraising has been essential for our Salem Branch to be able to provide awards and scholarships, programs, and projects. For many years in the 80s and 90s, we sponsored a Midsummer Night's Musicale as a fundraiser right here at Willamette University on the banks of Mill Creek. It was always the month of July. A well-known musical group would provide a concert while picnic groups of 4 would enjoy the catered baskets of gourmet food. It was very popular and very fun. So fun, in fact, that on the 97 and 100-degree days in July, everybody still showed up. This is a photo of members Betsy McDowell, Chris Ann Loritzen, and Kathy Jackman. In 2007, a linden tree was dedicated on Willamette University at the time of a state convention when Salem was the host. It is located south of Lucerne Hall along Winter Street, and I think we spotted it today. You can usually see it on your way to Gowdy Commons. The mission of AAUW is to empower women and girls. So how do we do that? It depends upon the age of the girls. For middle school girls, Expanding Your Horizons program was held here at Willamette University for 27 years. A staff member at that time, Leslie Whitaker, who is now an AAUW member, reserved classrooms on campus for each local professional woman in a STEM career. They set up hands-on workshops that were offered to the girls. The veterinary session was always the most popular because she brought kitties and dogs. Some sessions involved a field trip to a wetland or to Salem Hospital. Here are some photos of a few of approximately 20 workshops that were offered. And this was my workshop. I was a laboratorian and a microbiologist. And so here, the girls and I are looking at an agar media plate that had been streaked with an organism and placed antimicrobial discs on it, and then overnight grew the organism. Where it did not grow around a disc was the drug of choice for treating that infection, and that's how we assisted the doctor in his treatment of patients. And you know, the girls kind of look interested, and I loved seeing this photo and see their intense look. Other workshops that we had included in forensics, one in mathematics, where they used origami, one in nursing, where they taught them to inject. Another was in healthcare. They did represent healthcare very well in the workshops that were here. Okay, now for high school girls. Salem Branch sponsored a speech contest. It was held at Chemeketa Community College during Women's History Month. So a theme for speeches often related to significant women in history. The project aimed at empowering the girls by developing public speaking skills. For college girls, we had Start Smart workshops, and Mark did refer to these. In this photo is the Willamette University coordinator, Becky Miller-Moe, at the podium before her retirement. This Start Smart workshop aims at helping college women build skills and confidence to negotiate their salaries, especially their first salaries. Pay equity is an important part of women's long-term economic security. Classes are given at Willamette University for graduating seniors, excuse me, and for students at the Atkinson School of Administration. And they're given by AAUW members. Salem Branch sponsors 2 college students each year to attend the National Conference for College Women Student Leaders. Quite a mouthful, so we abbreviate it to NICWHISTLE. It is held at the University of Maryland in Washington, D.C. So we try to schedule the flights so that the girls going can plan a tour of the city. Excuse me. It is a leadership development and networking opportunity. Recent recipients of NICWHISTLE scholarships from Willamette University are Lillian Hubble, that you see in the left photo on the extreme right, And Lillian actually presented to ICL 2 years ago when she was a sophomore with a group of students. I don't know that you'll remember her, but she was here. And then the photo on the right is of Grace Grau, who is a senior this year, and she's planning to give a presentation in the spring to ICL. She has a wonderful story. You're just going to love that session, so don't miss it. Salem Branch has awarded a scholarship to the outstanding graduate of a STEM field for many years at Chemeketa. In this photo is Maureen McGlynn, now retired from staff at Chemeketa, presenting a scholarship from AAUW. Scholarships were awarded at Willamette years ago. Joanne Stern is pictured here with a Willamette awardee. And Joanne is also retired from Chemeketa and was actively involved in the branch's scholarship program for years. Now, there is a different way to empower women. Here are some examples of support for women given during times of inequity. When a woman experiences discrimination, AAUW has a legal advocacy fund, and this money can be used to support the lawsuit cases. Lily Ledbetter sued Goodyear Tire Company in Alabama for equal pay in 2003. AAUW contributed to funds during this lawsuit. Even though Lily did not win her case because of the time lapse between her employment and the time that she filed her case, she dedicated the rest of her life as an equal pay archivist. The photo on the left is with our guest, Dolores Molnarczyk, and Lily. It was taken at an AAUW Oregon and Washington bi-state convention where Lily was the keynote speaker, and that was in 2011. Be sure to read about Lily's story in her book, Grace and Grit, or if you like movies, you can get it on Netflix under the title Lily, and it is streaming right now. Lily attended President Obama's signing of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act in 2009. Another woman, a little closer to home, that was supported by AAUW is Vicki Dugan. She was a softball coach at Oregon State University from 1988 to 1994, when she was replaced by a male coach. Vicki filed a gender discrimination lawsuit. Besides the financial support provided by AAUW during those long proceedings, she received moral support by AAUW members in that area who filed into the courtroom right during the trial. They provided board and room for her while she had to stay in Eugene. She was awarded $1.28 million by the 8-member federal jury. She was able to continue coaching at a college in California, and I can tell you that doesn't often happen to the women that file suits. They usually give up their career to do this. Vicki is now, you can see on the lower frame there, a member of the Porterville College Athletic Hall of Fame and the Osborne County Hall of Fame. So she ended up with a very successful life in the end. We can empower women by recognition, and this is often done during Women's History Month. Gloria Holland produced Reader's Theater plays at 2 times in Willamette ICL. One was after the centennial of women's suffrage in Oregon, and one was a few years later Breaking Through Barriers, Celebrating Unsung Heroes of STEM, to call attention to women with accomplishments that were heroic but not necessarily found in the history books. WICL members were part of each of these theater casts, and I just wonder how many, are there anybody here that was a cast member at that time? Oh, we got one in the back. Yay! I just knew. It was so much fun to do those plays. And Glory continues to produce Readers Theaters, her most recent being a celebration of all 21 branches of AAUW at the state meeting last April. Thank you, Peggy. Rosie the Riveters were honored during Women's History Month in Salem in 2016. Many daughters of the Rosies, called Rosebuds, also attended. A few Rosies told their stories of being welders during the war. Actually, 310,000 women were working these jobs in 1943, which was about 65% of the workforce. The poster that evolved, "We Can Do It," symbolizes strength, perseverance, and equality. My granddaughter got to attend that day, and so Amelia is sitting with the Rosies there, and they gave her a Rosie tie. That was really the thing for her. She thought that was great. A more recent event to recognize women was She's Speaking Live, a concert of 8 women, including Kristen Granger, who has provided musical performances here at ICL. They presented at Laux Auditorium in March of 2021, right after the pandemic, calling attention to women musicians in Oregon who wrote songs about remarkable women historically, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Jane Goodall. Salem Branch was a presenting sponsor of the concert, and there was standing room only. It was a sellout. Now we will switch to advocacy, where education is one of AAUW's highest priorities. For 58 years, AAUW branches advocated for kindergartens to be required in public schools in the state of Oregon. Because progress was so slow, AAUW founded in about 1960 a parent cooperative called Happy Time Nursery Kindergarten, which was operated actually for decades after. Continuing their advocacy for state support, Salem Branch members were very involved in introducing bills, visiting legislators, and providing testimonies until the law passed in 1981. This required Oregon public kindergarten, but it was not enforced until 10 years later, 1991. Joanne Stern tells this story in her oral history, so I hope you'll be able to listen to that one. Teachers reported that it made a huge difference having this preparation for first grade classes. Paul Evans introduced the bill to require civics class in public high school many times in the Oregon legislature. With advocates like AAUW and League of Women Voters, it became law in 2021 and was implemented 3 years later. So now all high school juniors are required to pass the civics class. It is a requirement for graduation. This photo shows League of Women Voters and AAUW members that reviewed the textbooks used to teach civics classes, and they said they are okay. AAUW was a strong advocate of Title IX legislation, which prohibits gender discrimination in sports as well as sexual harassment or violence in schools receiving federal assistance. A few years ago, AAUW members visited every school district in the state to assure that they had received updated information and to assure that there was a responsible Title IX overseer in their district. AAUW also advocated for an increase in Oregon Department of Education staffing to enforce Title IX, and the department gained funding for one more position at that time. Pay equity continues to be a concern, and here's why. National AAUW has a strong research department, and their statistics reveal the status of equal pay nationwide. In this diagram, using 2024 data, women's earnings are divided into racial and ethnic groups. The colored capsule levels represent the percentage that group earns in comparison to a white, non-Hispanic man and what he earns in the same job. So for every $1 earned by men, looking at this graph, the purple represents all women who would get 83 cents. The blue represents black women. They get 66 cents on the dollar. Green is Native Americans, 58 cents. And yellow, Latina, Hispanic women are the same, 58 cents. We still have a long way to go to attain equal pay. Let's see. This slide features a bake sale. I'm talking about Equal Pay Day, and we call attention to Equal Pay Day because to bring about awareness. And this slide here does feature that bake sale at Western Oregon University, calling attention to unequal pay. The baked item for women was 75 cents. The man had to pay $1. The equal pay date symbolizes how far into the year a woman must work to earn what a man earned in the previous year. In 2025, the equal pay date was March 25th. It's predicted to be in early March in 2026, a very slight gain in equity. The bill for equal pay was successful with the passage of Oregon's Equal Pay Act of 2017. It became enforceable in 2019. Salem Branch members testified in favor of that bill, and after passage, members distributed information to both employers and employees to enhance the understanding of the law. At a regional meeting of AAUW, the two senators who sponsored the bill that you see here, Kathleen Taylor and Tim Knope, were celebrated for this victory because of their hard work and their passionate plea for passage. At the very time of the vote, it passed 100%. That doesn't happen very often. Salem Branch members participate in demonstrations and marches to make known their advocacy. In the center photo here is, on the left, is Trish Garner, who is a leader in public policy in AAUW of Oregon. She's done lobbying for us, and she's just a really incredible person to have on a team. And Peggy Shippen is with her, and they were supporting Oregon's workplace age discrimination law of 2025, which is now in effect. A fun annual event is the Pink Walk, a way to participate in breast cancer awareness and raise funds for early detection services for underserved women in Marion and Polk counties. Salem members work continually on the promotion of vote by mail. we referred to Ray Everett earlier, and she was such a strong leader and so passionate about this. It was finally accepted in Oregon. To give an example of Ray's passion, she would meet a new person and learn their name, and her next question was, "Are you a registered voter?" And so she did think of voting as the highest priority. In the 1980s, a few times vote by mail was used for local and special elections. Then by 1993, vote by mail was used for a special statewide election. And in 1995, vote by mail was used for primary and general elections, and it still is today, and we hope it will stay. AAUW has collaborated for years with League of Women Voters, and it was a delight in recent times to volunteer at the children's voting booth at the art fair. Parents were provided with voting information, and this year the children voted on their favorite animal. It was my first year to volunteer, and the first little boy that came out of the booth said, "None of these animals are my favorite." And I didn't know what to do because they didn't have a way to write in a vote. The reason being that when the children get home, they can go online and find out if their candidate is in the lead. And so they didn't have, maybe next year they'll think of putting in a vote, write-in. They didn't have cats and dogs on the ballot this year, which is, interesting. Maybe because they thought those would be natural winners. I don't know. I don't even know. Mark, do you know? The rabbit one. There are other projects that we do with League of Women Voters. We do candidate forums. We do Women History Month, and especially during the time that we celebrated the suffrage. We have joint meetings with topics that relate to both groups' missions. Some other community connections. AAUW participated in the Juneteenth celebration of diversity and social justice in the Salem community for the first time this year. Kathleen Fish presented the history of World Beat Festival last year in ICL. We love her idea to celebrate diversity and inclusion in Salem, made up of so many different ethnic groups. We are hostesses for the performers and volunteers for lunch and snacks in the hospitality tent. When these two girls on the right entered the tent, I asked them, "Can I take your photo?" And they just immediately got into this position. It was so fun. We helped to sponsor the Peace Lecture at Willamette University and Chemeketa in October each year. 2025 was the 35th year for this event, where a Peace Award recognizes a deserving local citizen. Although I was unable to trace history, Dorothy Patch, an AAUW member, would have been a candidate as peacemaker. She was a peace and human rights activist, founded the United Nations Association in Salem. She was a founder of Salem Speaks Up, celebrating Human Rights Day. And AAUW Salem Branch has been co-sponsoring this event for each year, advocating for social justice. Here is a notice of the celebration for 2025. Note that it's in the Westminster Presbyterian Church on December 10th. Doors open at 6:30. And we are just delighted this year to have Senator Deb Patterson talk about human rights. Here is the linden tree. Nearly 19 years later, hugged by Dolores, who worked at Willamette University as a STEM outreach coordinator. Trees have become super important in this time of climate change. And Peggy Shippen is the creator of a most favorite project in AAUW Salem Branch that involves trees. And here she is to tell you about it right here.
I hope I can do as well as Joyce up here. So, good afternoon, and thank you all for inviting us here. It's really great. Salem, Oregon. I probably better get up here a little bit. So you guys wave at me, make sure I'm doing okay. Okay, Salem, Oregon is a charter member of the Tree City USA program. Did y'all know that? It was founded in 1976. Salem has received multiple Tree City USA Growth Awards. Knowing this, even in retrospect, I have to say, it does seem fitting the AAUW Salem Branch would eventually come to embark on a tree planting project. This program, too, has a Willamette University connection. The story begins during my tenure as AAUW Salem Branch Public Policy Chair. At that time, AAUW of Oregon challenged the branches to support a local public policy program. We asked our members what they would be interested in doing. 85% of the Salem Branch members said they wanted to do something to improve the environment. In 2021, the City of Salem was in the midst of passing the Salem Climate Action Plan. Well, we decided, okay, so we'll advocate for it, which was really easy. We went to the City Council, and it passed very easily in 2022. I knew this wasn't enough to satisfy our members. They wanted to do something. So I scrolled through the plan looking for an activity our members might be inspired to do and were able to do. I stopped when I got to the page about tree planting. I said, we have members who are gardeners and they love trees. Personally, I was taken back to my tree planting days as a Girl Scout. But you know, that was many years ago when we were all so much younger. I knew our members would be excited, but wary with all the work that goes into tree planting. Clearly there were some obvious hurdles. I called the City of Salem anyway and set up a meeting with Mylan Davis, the urban planner. A few of his staff attended, and I brought along a small group of hopeful AAUW members, Joyce and Laurel Buell, who was very knowledgeable about trees and a lover of them. We described to Mylan what we wanted to do, what we could do physically, and what we needed to do to satisfy our AAUW mission. Mylan and his staff literally blew us away with what they could do to make this happen. First, they secured a tax-deductible donation fund for us, specifically set up for planting trees, so people who donated to it, they would know that their money goes to plant trees in where we decided. They would purchase the trees, they would bring the trees to the planting site, they would provide the equipment and the training, and they would care for the trees year-round. Whoa. The city even said for every 5 trees we planted, they would plant 5 at about $100 a tree. Both of us wanted a grove of native trees and foliage, and both of us wanted to somehow provide an educational experience for students. All our members had to do was raise the money to plant the trees and come and help plant them. This was getting to be very doable. Parks and Recreation recommended Stephens-Yoshikai Park for the following reasons. It sits, and I showed there a mark where we've actually planted the trees. It sits right there on the corner where I made the bigger but smaller circle. That's a wildlife corridor. And when you plant next to a wildlife corridor, the trees have a much better chance of surviving because their roots just automatically go into that area. This area, these two bare patches, is a soccer field. It sits between those two schools, Stephens and Yoshikai. And this is in the area of northeast Salem where there is a dire need of a tree crown. We had our tree planting site, we had a deal. We were onward. We had Mylan come to our branch meeting to introduce us to the joint project, and here's where the Willamette University connection comes in. Joyce had learned about a new Willamette University seedling program run by Ella Davis and Riley Forth, Willamette University environmental science students. Ella explained they were growing oaks from acorns and had nurtured 800 saplings on campus. They proposed that the city purchase those seedlings for Salem parks in projects like ours. Well, Mylan approved it right on the money, and our AAUW members approved the project. They said, we will raise money to plant trees in Stephens-Yoshikai Park. By March 2023, Salem Branch members had raised over $3,500. Donors giving $100 or more would have their name on a plaque. Parks and Recreation made and distributed the flyers, and our first planting was held on April 21st, 2023. At the first planting, city councilors Mickey Varney and Vanessa Nordyke, who are also members, and AAUW president at the time, Claudia Carmichael, spoke in honor of Earth Day. Donors were thanked, and a plaque was unveiled. Kathy Mentrum, the Northgate Neighborhood Association to this park, attended and read a poem she had recently written called Hello Tree. The planting began at 9:30. It was chilly and a bit rainy, but by noon the clouds had parted, and we had had so much fun watching tree after tree being planted into the previously barren ground. By noon, we had planted 35 trees, and Mylan said he had never seen a group plant so many trees so fast. Pretty good for a bunch of old ladies, huh? The second year planting, we got to see the previous year's trees in bloom. They are a mix of native Oregon white oaks, ponderosa pines, dogwoods, cascaras, Pacific crabapples, vine maples, and big leaf maples. It's really pretty. By noon that day, we had planted 33 trees. Stephens-Yoshikai Park now had 68 trees. The third year of the planting, last year, in April 25, we involved the sixth graders from Stephens Middle School. First, they participated in the the pre-planting program. Honoring the Kalapuya people, they were the ones that gave the program who talked about how the Kalapuya were the first to live on the school land. They talked about Adam Stevens, an early pioneer who donated the land for the original Stephens School, along with the lumber to build it. AAUW member Mickey Varney, she's a fisheries and environmental specialist. She talked to the students about how the connection between fish and trees. Mylan Davis has a really special crew of tree planting fellas. And they showed the students how to plant the trees, and we paired up with them. Our members did. Students got to plant trees, many, for the first time. While their teacher, and she's over there on the far left, and with her back to us, she was just so proud, and she was just full of joy. Another 33 trees were planted. We now have 101 trees planted at Stephens-Yoshikai Park. After this event, I received this nice little sticky thank you note poster from the Stephens-Yoshikai students. All wrote, "I really had fun planting trees." One said, "I never planted a tree before." And the other one said, "I'm looking forward to doing this again." Our plans for April 2026, this spring, our planting include adding foliage, a park bench, and a wood chip walkway. These last two items are coming from a grant petitioned by neighbors under the leadership of AAUW branch member Pamela Lindley and Kathy Mentrum, the North Gate Neighborhood Association Secretary. Amazingly, this year's tree planting coincides with the Arbor Foundation's designation of 50 years of Salem as a Tree City USA. City Parks and Recreation is planning a city-wide celebration, with one of the events being held at our planting at Stephens-Yoshikai Park. Students and neighbors will be involved, and you are invited to attend. The celebration and tree planting will be at Stephens-Yoshikai Park on April 24th, 2026, starting at 6 a.m. Just come prepared to plant. You don't even need to, huh? Did I say? Oh boy, that's pretty bad. Thank you. 9 a.m. I don't know where 6 came from. Anyway, so you could come, and all you have to do is just be in your nice tree planting clothes, and the gloves and the tools and everything are provided. It's just a blast. Information about the tree planting is along with the other flyers on the back table. And please join us and bring a friend. Thank you. That's what I'm supposed to say. Does anyone have any questions of Joyce and I? I do want to say, since we just have one little minute here, is that this painting was actually done by Kathy Mentrum, the Neighborhood Association Secretary. She is also not only a poet, she's an artist. And the city asked her to paint something for this special T-shirt that this will be the Salem's 50 years as a Tree City USA photo, or their, I don't know what you call it, their logo. Questions?
So you have a number of events going on all the time, whether it's about voting, whether it's about advocacy for students, tree planting, and so forth. Do most of your members specialize in different expertise areas, or do they participate across the board in all of your different varieties of services?
Joyce?
I would say that the members participate in an area that they feel passionate about. And this is one that got the passion level on all of us, because it was just, we interacted with the children, So we had an educational component of it, and we're doing something for the environment, and we're doing something to collaborate with the city. And I think our collaborations in a community are so important to address all the issues that we face today. But yes, the members, they're all varied in their interests, it's true, but there's some of them that get behind a big project that we do.
Hi, this is Ken. I wish to compliment your organization on your part in getting the tree ordinance passed. And I'd just like to comment that I noticed between the few months that that was passed and it went into effect, I saw a great flurry of tree cutting, unfortunately.
Hi, my name is Neil. Thank you very much for all of your efforts to get kindergarten involved as part of the regular curriculum. I hope that's statewide. I was lucky enough to have grown up in Maryland, where I went to kindergarten in 1952. And I just wondered, I feel very, very strongly myself about the importance of preschool for children. And I wondered whether your organization is involved in any efforts to bring about preschool programs throughout the state.
We are. There are any bills or legislation that has to do with funding of preschools, we're right there. We're at every level. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Brenda. I also have the microphone. Do you try and connect with the Roots and Shoots programs for your tree planting day at the schools around Salem that do Roots and Shoots?
No, we do not. We have, this is enough for us as one branch to handle at this point in time. But we do know that the city of Salem does connect with the Friends. They may also connect with Roots and Shoots. I don't know. Our program was just set up so that we could fulfill this larger component for AAUW, as well as a super need in one concentrated area. We felt our members would stay motivated if every year they could see this grove growing and growing and blooming and blooming. And so we are eclectic. We're an eclectic organization, and that is why we're successful, is because we do things that within our mission that our members want to do, and we ask our members. This is one piece of it. Yes.
Yes, this is Anita Owen speaking, and I really appreciate all that AAUW is doing. I'm also wondering, I know you sometimes work with the League of Women Voters, if you are working with them on the Unite and Rise in the fight for democracy.
Yes, that was announced just recently in our newsletters, that we've formed this. We don't all know exactly how that's going to play out yet, but we're all in favor of it. We're in favor of any collaborations that can mesh with our mission.
Hi, this is Jim. I was surprised by the number of branches there are for the AAUC in Oregon. 20 some odd? 22? 21. It's a lot. So even a small county in eastern Oregon probably has a branch, right?
Well, California has over 100.
Wow. And the total number of members are how many in the state of Oregon? Was that the 80 number that you gave us, or?
We have 81. About 81 members in the Salem branch at the present time, yes. And in Oregon, I think their total in Oregon is somewhere between 600 and 700.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. And the other number I heard, I'm a real number guy. I like to hear these numbers. That trees cost $100 each? That seems high to me.
That was an average cost. So some of them cost maybe more than others, and I don't know. That's the figure they gave us, the city. Yeah.
I think part of that is figured in is that the people, the city, has to take care of them for the first 3 years or they won't live. So it requires a lot of watering, during the summertime. And so they built in some costs for that into the cost of the tree. And these trees are not small. They're big. When we plant them, they have a lot better chance of surviving if they're a certain size. So, they're not little twigs. So that's part of the rationale for the cost.
Well, I don't see any more questions, so why don't we take a 10-minute break?
Before Peggy, she's going to be the main speaker here for the second hour. I wanted to say we had questions at break about membership, and the membership requirements for AAUW at this time are to hold an associate degree of higher education or above, a bachelor's, PhD, any level, or equivalent. And they do have a brand new rule that that national leadership will review someone that wants to become an AAUW member but doesn't hold a bachelor's or an associate degree. And they will evaluate that experience and education that they have had, and they can grant membership. But that's all there is as a requirement. We love to have new members. Absolutely love it. And all of our members have the best time. So take one of the brochures in the back. I set out a lot more because we ran out of the brand new ones that have been updated. The ones that are back there now don't have all the new dates for events that are happening, but they have all the other information on it. And so there's there's email address to email, or there's the website. So feel free to take some of that information. And Peggy, you're on.
Thank you. I want to tell you that this is about a 20-minute presentation, and certainly we're going to take questions and answers on this piece also. This is another piece of AAUW that we're currently working on, and I'm here to tell you about it because it's fairly new. As you know, I'm Peggy Shippen. I'm a member of the AAUW Salem Branch. However, many years ago, being a California snowbird, I became a dual member of AAUW Palm Springs branch, and that would dual with Oregon, which led me to becoming a member of the AAUW California Leadership Development Committee, which is on the state board. I've been a member of AAUW for over 30 years, a member of the Salem Branch for 5, and a member of the AAUW California Leadership Development Committee for 3 years. This is how I came to meet these 2 amazing women. One of them is Cheryl Blakely, and the other one is Sigrid Morantz. They helped me, and they are the creators, truly, of this new program I'm going to talk about called Volunteers First. It really did take a village of AAUW California and AAUW Oregon, because I'm being from Oregon. These ladies aren't going to get out of helping me, to create and promote Volunteers First. But only because of the passion, time, and talent of these two AAUW women here. They were the ones who worked tirelessly with me to create Volunteers First. How many of you have ever heard of having a or an organizational philosophy for supporting volunteers? How many of you have ever heard of that? Oh, that's very good. Because personally, I had not. And some of us had not until we did. We actually only thought about proposing an organizational philosophy until after we developed this program. So I guess better late than never. How many of you are currently volunteers? Are currently volunteers in a volunteer organization? Okay, and how many of you are currently leaders of volunteers? And how many of you have been frustrated with the decline in volunteerism? Yeah, okay. We're all in this same boat. 2 years ago, we embarked on a journey to develop a new leadership program to provide our AAUW leaders with guidance so they could have a more positive impact on membership, retention, engagement, and leadership. This is our story of how we came to develop Volunteers First. And as a leader of this effort, I'm here today to share the many aha moments that we had along the way. Each principle of Volunteers First was truly an aha moment. I hope that you will find this information to be enlightening and helpful in your volunteer endeavors. Nonprofit volunteer organizations worldwide have been facing a steady decline in members and volunteers for the last 30 years or maybe even more. As early as the 1980s, researchers noted fluctuation in civic engagement, formal volunteering, and donating. The U.S. Census Bureau noted a significant volunteer drop in 2006. I didn't even know they kept track of that. This map shows rates of volunteerism in the United States in 2024, from 16% in the lighter areas to 41% in the darker areas. Note that volunteerism is higher in the low population areas. Sadly, research that could have helped our volunteer organizations stop this downward trend was not available until recently. In the meantime, between then and now, struggling along, trying to reverse membership decline, AAUW and other volunteer organizations adopted the business leadership model for raising money, for recruiting, for retaining members. The model just seemed to make sense. It was familiar. And after all, surely if the business model succeeded with marketing, attraction, and retention of employees, it would succeed with volunteers. Under this model, the AAUW and other volunteer organizations developed wonderful programs and served their populations, us women and girls, successfully and measurably. But membership remained in steady decline. We simply could not understand why this was happening, especially because our mission and values and programs were so popular and necessary. Since 1881, AAUW has prided itself in being unique by conducting research. AAUW research provided us with fact-based guidance for legislative advocacy, program development, and education programs to benefit and empower women and girls. In 2020, the AAUW California Board, under the leadership of President Sandy Gabe, decided it was time to research the reasons for AAUW membership decline in California. They embarked on, and I thought this was pretty gutsy to tell you the truth, they embarked on a research project covering all 100 branches in California. They asked former active members and leaders why they left AAUW. That's a pretty good sampling. And a good sampling responded. The results were disheartening, but enlightening. Other than moving or illness, a significant member said they left AAUW because they felt unwelcome, disconnected, and or just became disinterested in participating, even for the cause. Some said we weren't doing enough. Sandy Gabe then challenged the AAUW Leadership Development Committee to define a new and different, credible and effective, that's a big load, volunteer program that would address these findings. Researching this project led us to Barry Altman. He is the author of Engaging the Head, Heart, and Hands of Volunteers. Barry volunteered as a volunteer to help us. He met with AAUW California several times to present and consult. Soon thereafter, he consented to us using his book to develop an awareness program for our leaders. Barry was instrumental in enlightening our understanding of the why and the how of leading volunteers. First, Barry had us look inward to our volunteer motivators. You know, they look a lot like those on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Barry suggested our collective intrinsic needs, like those on Maslow's hierarchy there, are likely the same motivators as those of all of our members. Barry suggested all AAUW leaders really had to do, oh, this was just so simple, is to discover, then focus on satisfying the intrinsic needs of our member volunteers, and then adjust our leadership practices accordingly. Well, AAUW being AAUW, we had to do something besides tell our members we read about this in a book, and here's the author. We searched for credible research that might support Barry's theory, and here is what we found. In 2020, South American volunteers who were seriously concerned about the drastic decline in volunteerism, not just in South America, but everywhere, decided to conduct a study. They interviewed volunteers worldwide. The results? Universally, people volunteer to satisfy their intrinsic needs, the needs that money cannot buy. The need to altruize, give of themselves, make a positive difference. The need to socialize, to engage with others, sometimes engage with others who are like-minded. Learn to self-actualize, to have opportunities for introspection and personal growth. These intrinsic personal needs, unique to each of us, solely or in combination, are what research says motivates volunteers to serve. In 2023, the Australians expanded on the South American study and compiled many research studies, many studies, of volunteer leadership. These studies were from around the world also. And they looked at all these studies and they identified the specific behaviors of leaders of volunteers that resulted in those leaders having an increase in volunteer retention, engagement, and leadership. In a nutshell, the Australian study concluded worldwide the most successful volunteer leaders, the ones that report high retention, engagement, and leadership, made facilitating and building relationships their number one priority. The Australian study also identified the specific leadership behaviors exhibited to facilitate and build relationships. These specific interchangeable behaviors fell into 4 categories: care, connect, support, and recognize. And I'm going to briefly touch on each one from the research. Effective leaders of volunteers care about every member all the time. They passionately and sincerely get acquainted or reacquainted with a new or renewing member and any member who is not engaged. And they do this in person. They learn what interests and activities bring each member satisfaction and joy. They learn what each hope to gain by being a member. Oh yes, essentially every member expects to get paid in an intrinsic way in exchange for their time, talent, and skills. If volunteers don't get paid intrinsically in a satisfactory way to them, they will go elsewhere. Oops. Successful leaders of volunteers discover and keep rediscovering what each member generally hopes to gain. Back to the old altruize, socialize, learn, self-actualize. It's kind of revisiting that. I know my reasons have changed in 30 years. I want other things than I wanted when I first joined. Getting to know a volunteer in this way is key to engagement. The research says effective leaders of volunteers connect members. After getting to know new and unengaged members, leaders are then very equipped to connect them to other members who are involved in branch activities of similar interests. Connecting facilitates relationships with and among members. The need for connection is powerful, especially today. Research shows a key difference between very happy people and less happy people is good relationships. Remember, a successful leader's number one priority is to facilitate and build relationships. You see down there in the lower left-hand corner that little itty-bitty box? How many recognize that little bitty box? I don't know about you, but that box looks real big to me almost on a daily basis. It says, my daily tasks. Assigning tasks does not facilitate relationships, nor does it serve the purpose of putting the wants and needs of volunteers first. I learned from AAUW leaders in California and Oregon. I learned from the Oregons more recently because I've started asking. The most effective way to facilitate members getting to know each other with some depth and connecting them to each other is to regularly include circles of engagement during all gatherings. Circles of engagement provide members with an opportunity to connect with members they don't know, to learn about each other, to develop understanding, and learn how to talk to each other in new ways. Barry Altman suggests the best way to limit the best way to encourage circles of engagement is to limit leader and speaker time to 50% of the allotted meeting time. All right? Talking about meeting time. Using the other 50% of meeting time for formal circles of engagement. This is different from social time. Social time occurs before and after a meeting quite naturally. Using the 50% of the allotted meeting time for circles gives members time they wouldn't ordinarily have to think, to reflect, to interact, and engage in meaningful discussions with each other. Much like we do when we're making friends. This is fun, and it bonds us to each other and our cause. Circles can be used in as many ways as your mind can create. These are just some examples that we've had. Circles can be used for small groups to get to know each other more intimately, talking about an array of subjects from serious idea generation to answering trivia questions about influential women in STEM. Or during a fundraiser event as a get-to-know-you icebreaker and motivator to show up. This one was we all wore a special hat, and we talked to each other about what that hat meant to us. We had a little contest. This was during the pandemic. It was on Zoom. We talked to each other about what the hat meant to us. And we had a little contest about which was the most creative hat, or the this hat, or the that hat. And the next day, the winners of those categories had little baskets on their front door. Small groups provide safe and inclusive space for members to get to know each other by talking about challenging life experiences, ethnic and cultural differences, and leading to awareness, common interests, and values or ideas for new programs and new leaders. These are just some examples of some questions. And I had a woman tell me recently that they used circles with new members, and they sat down and they kind of were just outlining different things they had going on in the branch, and they had each other talking. And this one woman says, I don't want to do anything social. All I want to do is public policy. I mean, they escorted her over to the public policy people in that bed, just like that. And she is happy as a clam. She was going to just cut right to the chase. But because they had circles where she felt like she could say that. How many people join a new group and say, don't bother with me on this. I want to just do that. It just usually doesn't happen. So these are kind of cool examples that I'm hearing about now. Research also says effective leaders of volunteers engage in and model mutual support. Supporting members is following up with each member personally. It's simply touching bases with each member who has participated or not. Assessing their joy in participating or not. Learning whether or not their volunteer experience is bringing joy and satisfaction. Was the activity a good fit? Did it give them joy and a sense of fulfillment? And what would make the experience much better for them? Or were they just wandering around? I had a member wandering around at a tree planting. And I went up to her and I said, "Hi, how you doing? Fine. Well, are you having a good time?" "Well, I'm just wandering around." And I said, "Well, let's see. How about we come over here and see what this group is doing?" And I tell you, within a few minutes, she was digging for the tree. She was telling students about her culture. It was just really cool. All she needed was somebody to kind of help connect her. Touching base is the single most critical, proactive, effective, and caring way a leader can take to sustain a member's passion for volunteering. The principles of Volunteers First also can be applied to community outreach and collaboration. AAUW Salem Branch members take joy in reaching out to other organizations with similar missions and values. They seem to just do this naturally, and it is one of the reasons that Salem Branch has been very successful. Many of these outreach activities mentioned by Joyce earlier were suggestions of our members. When we reach out to these groups, we focus on modeling diversity, equity, and inclusion just by our participation. We let other community leaders know AAUW supports diversity, equity, inclusion. And we ask them what we can do to support you in their endeavors. Now, when it comes to recognition, this is the last piece of the research. Barry Altman, this is kind of a tricky piece. He suggested to us that we should rethink recognition. And honestly, this just seemed kind of hard. But he says, and this is kind of maybe true, elaborate ceremonies, trophies, and gifts of appreciation may bring joy to some volunteers, but it might make others just cringe. Recently, I surveyed our members, and it was also a group of new incoming members, or new members, I should say. And I asked, how would you like to be recognized for doing something very effective with our group? 90% said, just a simple thank you would be just fine. A few said, I don't need any thanks. One woman said, don't even come to me and say thank you. It was really strange. And another few said, well, being named a yearly honoree would be really nice. Effective leaders of volunteers bring joy and satisfaction to the members by recognizing each member in ways that gives them joy. Kind of like Christmas giving, right? Buy a gift for yourself, give it to someone else. The challenge of being a leader of volunteers, I really believe, is to intentionally step outside of yourself and your goals and focus on the needs of your members. Making the volunteer experience about the members' fulfillment gives space for member differences, allows them to grow and maintain their identity while having a meaningful impact on others for the cause they chose to join. Volunteering is an affair of the heart. Fulfilling the member volunteers' motives touches their heart, and that drives their choices for volunteering and sustains their passion for serving. Volunteers first leaders put volunteers first. Thank you. Any questions?
Am I first? So my name is Franca, and my question is a bit provocative, I admit. So, through science and through awareness, we realize now that gender is not binary. So is that an obstacle when you have an organization that says women, when there could be people that are transitioning into their true identity? So is that going to be a future problem for you?
It is not a problem for AAUW. We've made it very clear in our statement that we include women as they are identified as women, and men as they are identified as women, and anyone else, people. They have not changed that to reflect that publicly in their statement, but it is clearly a part of AAUW. Many is clearly reflected in our Title IX and in our legal advocacy cases, in which different types of people are represented. We have even represented men in our legal advocacy cases for helping women, but that's a little digressing from what you said, yes. But no, this is not a problem for AAUW at all. Thank you for asking that.
Anybody else? I'm next. Hi, thank you. This program of Volunteers First, what does that mean in practical terms for the community at large? Are you starting to think about workshops for volunteer leaders to take these ideas beyond this group, which has a lot of volunteers in it, to train volunteer leaders to get their leadership skills up to snuff so that they get more volunteers? Is that clear?
AAUW is trying to be in the business of doing better ourselves, but because I am here and because I have been pretty much a mover and a shaker with this, and anywhere I go, I tell people, if you would like me to come and talk to your group about Volunteers First, this is not a program that AAUW is keeping to itself. We are community. We are trying to do the best for everyone, and certainly we will share it. We can't, in fact, AAUW, I know AAUW California, I can't speak to Oregon particularly, but they don't copyright anything. They could. I think there are AAUW states maybe that have copyrighted things, but this is Barry Altland's program. And I suggest also, I know one of our branches in California, they bought 10 books and had all their leaders and everybody in it read it. So I really suggest you read the book. But once again, if you would like me to come and speak to your group, I would be glad to do so.
This is Frances. Can you
put the slide back up at Barry's name and the title of his book?
Sure. Glad to. I may have to run through all of these because I don't know how to make it go fast. There we go. There's Barry. He is a really, really nice guy. I want to tell you.
I think that's supposed to say head, hearts, and hands of volunteers. That's what it says on the cover of his book.
Oh, a typo. You know, this is the worst thing about making slides is getting all of these little typos taken care of. I swear. It is supposed to say heart. Oh, dear.
So, not seeing any more questions. Are there? Oh, there is a question over there.
I just wanted to say how wonderful that presentation was.
Thank you.
I'm a volunteer, and I recently left an organization because it was the exact opposite of what was happening. I love this. I'm getting the book, and thank you for coming. I'm going to talk to you after the meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.